School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an independent radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite tracks, get the latest CSB news, and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out Toronto's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping sports with them three, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic. David, this time I'm gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Tuesday, the 28th day of May. Yeah, a rare Tuesday edition of our little podcast here, due to the fact that yesterday was Memorial Day, and I hope yesterday you all took time out there to show your thanks and appreciation to our great men and women who have served this country, either are currently serving it or have served it in the past, because let's face it, without them we would not be able to live our lives in the free, joyous way we do, doing the things that we love to do, thanks to their sacrifices, thanks to their love for this country and willingness to put their lives in put their lives on the line to defend us, to defend our freedom. And you know what's weird about it is you really can't say, oh, happy Memorial Day, because it's not a day to be happy. It is, as I said, a day to mourn the losses that we've had over the years in the line of battle, the line of duty. But still, you need to take the time out, show the appreciation. It's not all just about partying, drinking with your friends, having barbecues on Monday afternoon, watching sports, watching baseball. They're the main part of the day. Those brave men and women are the main part of the festivities on the last Monday of every May, and they are the ones that should be celebrated and should be shown the love and appreciation. Now, as I mentioned, we are at the end of the month of May, so that means one thing, and it's something now that I feel like we've been waiting an eternity for, and that is the NBA Finals. And when it comes to this Finals, I'm not surprised about the two teams that are here, because going into the conference finals, you could have told me Warriors against either the Bucks or Raptors, and I wouldn't have been surprised. It would have been a stunner if the Trailblazers had won the series against the Warriors. The thing that comes away as a surprise to me is that the Trailblazers couldn't even win a game. That once again, that demon that they can't seem to get over of even just winning a game in the postseason against the Warriors seemed to creep up. Even more so, the fact that games 2, 3, and 4, the Warriors trailed by double digits at certain points in each one of those games, and were still able to come back. They trailed by 17 in the second half of game 2, by 18 in game 3, by 17 in game 4, fought all the way back and forced an overtime where, for most teams in those spots, especially the road games, they could have just said, you know what, no big deal. We'll go back, we'll win it at home in game 5. For the Warriors, different game plan, because they're champions. What can you say? They've been there, done that. The only blemish, if you want to say, on this crew's resume is not winning an NBA championship back in 2016 when they won 73 games that season, setting a new single season record. Other than that, it's been a run of dominance that we have not seen in a long time. The fact that this group is going to the NBA Finals for the 5th straight year, first team to do that since those great Laker teams in the late 50s, early 60s with Bill Russell and company, to go to 5 straight NBA Finals, something that the Kobe Shaq Lakers didn't do, something that the LeBron's Heat teams did not do, Jordan's Bulls did not do. None of these great teams or very good teams of the past were able to do what we've seen from this Warriors team. And including, as I mentioned before, overcoming 3 straight double-digit deficits in one playoff series. Never happened before, and just shows you the heart, resiliency out of this group. And what you're seeing is they're not a better team without Kevin Durant. There's no team in the history of this league that you can take an all-time great off of the team and say, oh, they're better without him. They're different. They are a different team. And different in the fact that it's not just relying on, in the face of fire, give Kevin the ball, let him ISO and get a bucket. No, they're going back to more of their constant passing offense that they had when Steve Kerr originally took over this team 5 years ago. It seems like guy gets the ball in his hand, doesn't have it for more than a second, passing it on to the next guy, getting the best shot available, getting the wide open shot at all times. And you're seeing, for all of those people out there that doubted Steph Curry, saying, oh, what's wrong with Steph? Why does he seem to crumble at the biggest times? Well, he's come alive, especially in his last 6 games played, and showed you all why he is a 2-time MVP, why he's a 3-time NBA champion, saying, all right, Kevin Durant's out, no big deal. I'm going to take control of this team and will still be able to win games without him. The guy that, even with that, as great as Curry has been, the guy you could make a good argument has been the MVP of this team the last series and a half has been Draymond Green. And the fact that he's brushed aside all of the nonsense, all of the things that he can't control. He's not getting into the ticky-tack arguments with the officials that we've seen him do in the past, and avoiding getting ejected from these games with the technical fouls here. Help keep this team focused, help keep this team on the right track of what the game plan is here, and just I mean, what else can you say about this team? Now, it's interesting for them. They've got a completely different challenge ahead of them here coming up in this finals, because for the first time in 4 straight finals, they're not going in staring down LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. No, they have a new challenge ahead of them. And going into this round, I would have thought that it was going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. I thought the Milwaukee Bucks were the best team in the Eastern Conference throughout this season. But then the Toronto Raptors decided to throw a little wrinkle in the plan here and show that they had other things in mind. And I'm not stunned that they were able to win this series, because, hey, they've got a great player. They've have a deep roster. Yeah, their bench has been quiet and dormant at some times throughout this playoffs, especially in road games. But that they were the second best team in the East for a reason, and even kept their heads above water in the games in which Kawhi Leonard didn't play this year for what they called maintenance days. So I'm not surprised that they beat the Bucks. I'm surprised they beat them in the fashion that they did. The fact that they're down 2-0 in this series, they played as atrocious basketball as you could ask for, and they mailed in game 2. You would have thought that they were done after that. That going through a 7-game series against the 76ers would have had them worn out. They showed the warts of that in game 1, but they come back on their home court, win a hard-fought game 3 in overtime, a game that you could see Kawhi Leonard was running on fumes throughout. Get big performances by Powell, get big performances by Kyle Lowry, who I think with Kyle Lowry you look at from this series and you say why he's been able to step up big in this postseason compared to postseasons past is that, yeah, he's been here the longest of anybody, but it's not his team anymore. It became Kawhi Leonard's team the second that he stepped in this organization last year. See, in the past, it was looked at as when the Raptors failed, it was DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry failed. The two of them were lumped together at side by side. So if the Raptors failed, it was looked at as the two of them's failure. Now, with the fact that you have the superstar here, one of the best 5 players in the league, he could take a step back, take a sigh of relief, and realize that I don't have to be the guy that does everything anymore. I could just gel in, mix in wherever they need me to be, and just fit into a role like everybody else, and not be the guy that has to make the big shot or has to carry the team when they're going through a slow period here. And you give a lot of credit to, as mentioned before, the others on the Raptors, the guys like the Powell who stepped up and played well for them in different points in this series when they need him. Van Vliet, who in Game 4, when they could have easily gone down, could have easily struggled, made some crucial late threes. And Game 5, when they're down by double digits and you're thinking that any moment now the Bucks are going to blow this game out, he puts up 21 points and helps them make a thunderous comeback there. Also, you have to add in the mistakes that the Bucks made along the way in this series. The lack of adjustments by Budenholzer, the fact that after Game 2, whenever they were on the court together, Kawhi Leonard was guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the fact that you're having Giannis still dribble the ball down the court rather than they get the basketball when he's open, or have to dribble with Kawhi right up in his face most of the time. Mistake that hopefully he'll learn from next time these the two sides meet, or next time you have this kind of tenacious defender going up against him. But as great as Giannis is, he can't do it all by himself. He needed his others to step up, and unfortunately didn't get that. I mean, Lopez had the big game one with 29 points, but after that wasn't a big factor in this series. Eric Bledsoe, I mean, can we send out a police report looking for him? And you look at how atrocious he was. 17%. He shot 17% from behind the three-point arc. Hell, in the first 4 games, he went 2 for 19 from behind three. You got Middleton, who had a big game 4 with 30 points, but other than that, shot 32% for the series, only averaged 10 points in the other 5 games. And this is a guy that averaged 18 points and shot 44% in the regular season. In a postseason that he's heading into his free agency, so that leaves a sour taste in some people's mouths. And if you're a Bucks fan, you should be hoping that they're willing to go above the luxury tax and keep this team together, because this was a fun team to watch. This was a really good team. They just had a disappointing ending. And if you keep the group together, who knows what they can do next year? Because when it comes to teams that when you're building toward that goal, you have to go through the warts, the failures, before you can achieve ultimate greatness. And this was a learning lesson for them. This was them taking that next step and showing them, hey, here's what I need to grow on. Here's what I need to improve on. And with Giannis, obviously, it's developing a better outside shot, developing a better shot from even 10, 12 feet away from the basket. So he's not always going in for the dunks, not always just going in for layups. You can have him have that next gear in his game. So it's a learning lesson for these Milwaukee Bucks, and they'll be back. I have no doubts in my mind that they will be definitely a team to reckon with next year. If you're a Bucks fan, you're hoping that you get to see it with this same group together, because boy, were they fun to watch this year. Now, when it comes to this finals, Raptors versus Warriors. First time in franchise history, the Raptors make it to the NBA Finals. Warriors, as mentioned before, they've been there, done that. And there's several questions that you go into the series asking, like, who does Kawhi Leonard guard? Because you're not going to put him up with Steph, because with Steph running around all game, you're going to have Kawhi Leonard worn out and not have him available for 40 plus minutes of the game. He's going to be exhausted by the end of the game, and that's a situation like, oh, now what? With our number one option exhausted, what do we turn to now? And that's where the others come in. The Lowrys, the Powells, the Gasols, the Ibakas, Van Vliets, Danny Greens. Who's that guy that steps up and is that second top player for them in this series, or is it going to be a collective mission here? Is it going to take everybody averaging at least double digits in this series and shooting close to or beyond 40% in order to beat this Warriors team? Because with the Warriors, you've seen other guys step up for them. You've seen other guys at a time where people are questioning the depth of this Warriors team. You've seen guys like McKinney, like Bell, like Looney have great impacts. You've seen Iguodala and Livingston show that they're not completely over the hill yet. You've seen them turn to guys like Cook and Jerebko for limited minutes, but when they're on the court, they seem to have some type of impact. Can the Raptors get that same impact from these other guys? And as the series goes along, the question's going to be asked about two players injured for the Warriors. If and when they come back, what kind of impact does DeMarcus Cousins have? Because he's right now listed as questionable for Game 1. Does him coming back just ruin the good mix, the good vibes that are going on right now? Because as we all know, DeMarcus Cousins can be a pain in the ass at the times. Or can he seamlessly fit right back into this team that, let's face it, he barely even played for this year? And also, does Kevin Durant return? I mean, you've heard conflicting reports on whether he actually plays in this series. So who knows what is going to happen there, but it should be a fun series. Should be exciting. I don't expect either team to sweep. I do think in the long run the Warriors are going to win this, because I know that they're so battle tested, and unless there's some unforeseen injury, I can't see this Raptors team that's been mostly carried by Kawhi Leonard being able to outlast the Warriors. So I'm going to say Warriors in 6 games. The Warriors will figure out a way to win at least one game of these first 2 games in Toronto, and from there they'll be able to skate home on winning just their home games. Finally, Steph Curry will have his crowning achievement and be the MVP of the NBA Finals. Got plenty left to talk about throughout this hour. Give some thoughts on, we talked about Memorial Day. That's kind of the benchmark in the baseball season. So I'll give you some thoughts. Look at the standings there. So far, about everyone's played about 51, 52 games so far this season. So I'll give you some thoughts on things there. We'll look at the all NBA teams and see where the writers once again mess things up, as well as we unfortunately lost a couple of sports legends or past stars over the last couple days. So I'll do my best to honor their lives, honor their memories, but plenty to get to over the next 35, 40 minutes or so here. So sit back, relax, continue enjoying your Tuesday afternoon. Keep being at sports with M3.
Half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV GoCSB.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected. Now.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Hope you all enjoyed your weekend, had a fun time celebrating, whether you were out at the beach, partying at the bars, barbecuing with the family. Hope everyone had a good time. Now, unfortunately, as life goes on, we begin to see stars from yesteryear leave life, leave us all, and we begin to reflect on the lives that they left behind them. And over the last couple of days, unfortunately, a couple of former greats in both the NFL and Major League Baseball passed away. First, starting with on Sunday, former Packers great Bart Starr passing away at the age of 85. And what's said about this, and 85 years old, that's a very good length of life, and you're not really surprised about it, especially when you see that his health had beginning to fail, starting about 5 years ago when he had a stroke. But what's sad is only after he passes away do people start recognizing, or that saw him play, realizing that, oh yeah, that he really was that great. Or, hey, remember how great Bart Starr was? Or talking about him as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Because you look at his career numbers, and unfortunately in the pass-happy league that the NFL has become, the stats-driven league, you compare his numbers to the guys of today, it's not as impressive. It's not as flashy and gaudy overall statistics, and especially when you see the fact that he only had 4 seasons of over, ready for this, 2,000 passing yards. That's right. Let me to restate that. He had 5, in fact, actually. Now I believe I have that correct. Seasons of 2,000 passing yards. His highest passing yard total was in 62 when he had 2,438 passing yards. Most touchdowns he ever threw for in a season was 16 back in 1961. Different league back then. I mean, you look at his numbers overall, and you're like, damn, if somebody put that up these days, they'd be looked at as just, mediocre. And that was a time when they relied more on running the football, more, and defenses were a little bit more ferocious than they are today. It wasn't as much of a aerial assault or downfield, and you didn't have all of the rules slanted in the offensive player's favor. But when you look at his overall career, you wonder, how is he not discussed amongst the likes of Brady, Manning, Montana, Elway, and argued as possibly the greatest of all time? I mean, the guy won 5 NFL championships, the last 2 of which were Super Bowls. You can think back to what's probably his most remembered play in the Ice Bowl that sent him to the second straight Super Bowl when the field was so slick that day they could barely run the ball, and on the last play of the game he runs a quarterback sneak to send the Packers back to the championship. And this is a guy, if you remember, he lost his first career playoff game, never lost another one after that. 9-1 in the playoffs, and in the playoffs that's when his numbers just exploded, and you're like, oh, okay, now there we go. Just a fantastic career. And people forget that after his playing days, he became the Packers head coach. It wasn't as impressive in that was about 20 games under 500 for his career, but doesn't take away from how great he was in that role as their quarterback for 16 years. Only quarterback ever to lead his team to 3 straight NFL championships. He was the Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 1 and 2 and was a 4-time Pro Bowler. So unfortunate for the Starr family that Bart passes away, but a fantastic football life, fantastic career, and he leaves us at the age of 85 on Sunday. This other one I wasn't as surprised about either, because we had begun hearing reports of this man's health deteriorating in the last couple of years as well, and that's with the untimely passing of Bill Buckner on Monday morning, who had beginning to deal with the battle of dementia in recent years, and when that was announced, you knew he only had so much time left on this earth. He leaves us at the very early age of 69 years old. And now Buckner played 22 years in the big leagues, had a very good career, 2,715 hits, a career batting average of .289, won the batting championship in 1980, but unfortunately for him, he's always going to be remembered for one play, for one stupid little play that got over-exaggerated by Boston Red Sox fans everywhere, winning Game 6 of the 1986 World Series. That slow dribbler up the first base line by Mookie Wilson goes under his glove and allows the game-winning run to score. And as I will always state, Red Sox fans, let me remind you, you led 6-3 going into that half inning, and your pitchers gave that up, including I believe it was Bob Stanley allowed the tying run to score on a wild pitch. You had a better defensive first baseman on the bench, but the manager decided to keep Bill Buckner on the field because he wanted him out there to celebrate the championship due to the fact that Buckner was such an important cog to that team. I mean, you look at his 86 season, he wasn't one of his best offensive years, but he was so synonymous with that team. He was one of the true leaders of the bunch that he wanted him out there to be on the field for that final out. And you watch the play, even if Buckner was not the fastest guy in the world, Mookie Wilson was a pretty fast guy in his own right. If Buckner picks up that ball, he still probably doesn't beat Mookie Wilson to the bag. And remember this, that was Game 6. Even with the loss, you still had a Game 7 to come. That would be, with this game, it was on a Saturday night. Game 7 was supposed to be on a Sunday, but due to weather, it got postponed to Monday. And The Red Sox wound up losing that game, a game in which they actually had a 3-0 lead early on. I think it's so disgusting how, the city of Boston and Red Sox fans everywhere, trashed this guy for over 20 years. And they bring him back only once they win a championship. Actually, correction, they bring him back once they won 2 championships. Because if you remember, it was April of 2008 they brought Bill Buckner back to throw out the ceremonial first pitch before a home game at Fenway Park. Very shameful. Very shameful that his career gets thought of in only that one moment. Because, as I said, he was a very good player for a long time. Probably should have made more all-star teams than he did. I mean, you look at the back end of his career, kind of brought down his average a little bit, but had several years as a 300 hitter. Not a Hall of Famer, but still very good career, and it gets tarnished because of that one play in 1986, which I hope Red Sox fans, you feel good about yourselves now for that. And, as far as both Bill Buckner and Bart Starr go, sad to see them both go. It just makes you realize how, that we look at these athletes and we remember them playing, we watch them playing, but remember, they're humans just like all of us. And unfortunately, just like every single one of us, they get old and leave us at some point in life. So, to the Buckner family and the Starr family, the sports world and fans everywhere, thinking of you guys today as Bart Starr passes away on Sunday at 85, and Bill Buckner yesterday at too early of an age, if you ask me, at only 69 years old, after a couple of years of battling dementia. Gonna take a quick break, be back, continue keeping it sports with M3.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Normally I do not feel bad for anybody on a rival of the teams I root for, whether it be the Boston Red Sox, the New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins. I don't as much consider the Buffalo Bills a rival. I actually get a kick out of their fan base a little bit with how much a bunch of goofy clowns they can be, and the fact that they essentially throw street fights during their tailgates. I don't feel bad for the Knicks and any of their misery because their fan base is obnoxious as hell, and it's impossible to feel bad for the Rangers. At the same time, I don't root for any of their players to get injured because you don't want to see it. You want to beat someone at their best. You want to beat them at their highest level. And I find it sad what's happened to Dustin Pedroia and the fact that it feels like his career is over. I mean, I'm sure some of you saw this yesterday. Pedroia was put on the 60-day DL by the Boston Red Sox as he continues this battle of knee problems that he's had in recent years that limited him to only playing about 100 games 2 years ago. Last year he played, I think it was only 6 games, and now this year he came back for 3 games before going back on the injured list. And he announced at a press conference that he's going to be taking a indefinite leave of absence from baseball, and he thinks that he might have played his last game in the majors because his knee, through all the injuries he's had in recent years and the surgery he has, just has not responded well enough for him to play baseball pain-free. And you think about Dustin Pedroia, you think about this guy who he came up back in 2006. He was the Rookie of the Year in 2007, and since then you look at him as like, wow, this is a guy that is clearly been clearly an overachiever, because at first glance you say, oh, this guy shouldn't be as good at baseball as he is. He's only about 5'9", not bulkily built, and he has as thunderous a swing of the bat as anyone you can remember. I mean, this is like a 5'9" version of Gary Sheffield, the way that he swung the bat, and the fact that he was consistently batting around 300, was a 4-time All-Star, is a 2-time World Series World Series champion. Well, I guess 3 times, because he technically was part of the team last year, although he really didn't play at all for them, only playing 3 games last year. And now it's going to end on a sour note like this, kind of along the same lines as David Wright's career ended with the New York Mets. Just, sucks for the guy. You wish he could go out on his own terms, because he's only 35 years old, and it's not like you're a fossil in baseball terms. Baseball players, we see plenty of times them play into their early 40s. So I don't know. I felt kind of bad for him yesterday when I saw that press conference and saw that his career might be over. If it was, he was a pain in the ass to deal with as an opposing fan, but I would not have wanted it to end like this for him. Now, we are, as I said, at essentially the 1/3 mark of the season. Memorial Day is looked at as that point in the calendar where a benchmark. There are 3 benchmarks really in the baseball season. One's Memorial Day, one's the All-Star break, and one's Labor Day. So this is the first of those 3 benchmarks, and you look at, okay, who's for real, who's not, who is a disappointment. And in the National League right now, you see the Phillies 9 games over in first place, even with the struggles Harper's gone through at times, the fact that they've been out without David Robertson, their pitching staff still full of mostly young guys, and you look at this division. The Braves are right now their closest competition. The Braves, it seems like every night I'm flipping them on or checking them out on MLB Network and seeing them have some kind of 9th inning rally. I mean, look at Sunday night. They come back from down 3 runs in the 9th against Jordan Hicks of the Cardinals and are able to have a nice victory there. But you look at this division in full, and it feels like this division is the division that we've had the most rumors and ties to both Dallas Keuchel and Craig Kimbrell, who in all likelihood a week from today are both going to sign contracts with major league teams, because then there's no draft pick compensation involved anymore because we'll be beyond the beginning of the Major League Baseball first-year player draft. Excuse me there. So, in all likelihood, one of these teams, I think, is going to sign them because you look at the Phillies. They need a true legitimate closer. Yeah, they have some young guys in the pen like Sir Anthony Dominguez and Hector Neris, but you need that guy that's been there and done that. And with the fact that Dave Robertson's missed so much time, you wonder how is he going to be able to bounce back from this forearm surgery and if he's going to stay healthy consistently. The Braves also are a team that can use either one of them because they have so many young pitchers that you're going to be worried about their innings limit. And they're without a true closer due to the fact that Vizcaino's out for the year with an arm injury, and they don't have that other true proven lockdown guy to take control of it. Plus, you look at the Braves right now, they've been able to withstand injuries on that team, and it feels like, we're talking about so many teams with dealing with injury issues, and they've, like everyone else, had their fair share of it, whether it be in the pitching staff or to the everyday lineup with losing NCRT for an amount of time, or with Donaldson's issues at times. But they've been able to overcome that, especially with bringing up this young kid, Austin Riley, who's been on fire since coming up only about 2 weeks ago. And he's already got 5 home runs, 14 RBIs, batting over .330, and they're going to have to figure out some way to keep this kid in the lineup. The fact that they have some veterans in other spots, give them a day off here, there, allow this kid to play different positions, but definitely got to keep a bat like that in the lineup. But it's starting to look like a 2-team race in that division because of the fact that the Mets, are no good. I mean, the Mets have this strong pitching staff, but that's been an inconsistent part of them this year with Wheeler, with Matz, and even Noah Syndergaard, who's got an ERA of around 5, and Jacob deGrom. You knew he was going to take a step back, but you didn't realize that it was going to be a full 2 runs higher of an ERA, and they've got a garbage bullpen. Now they're dealing with injuries on their lineup, with Cano on the injured list, who was doing nothing before he got hurt anyway, and both Nimmo and McNeil out hurt, and now heading into a more difficult chunk of their schedule. And let's face it, they did not take as much of advantage of that 15-game stretch we talked about a couple weeks ago as they should have. They only went 10-5 on that and wound up only getting back to 500 in that, and they've been an awful team on the road this year at 11-18. And then there's the Washington Nationals as well. The Nationals, who I'm ready to write them off for this season. The Nationals, who are 10 games under, they have the worst bullpen anyone has ever seen put together. An ERA of 7.12. They blew game after game last week at Citi Field against the Mets. And this stat I found the most interesting, because the Nationals have only won 2 games in which Max Scherzer started this year. You realize that the Nationals, they keep a stat of this as far as bullpen ERA with each starter. The Nationals' bullpen ERA in games that Max Scherzer starts is 11.71. And I know everyone's talking about Dave Martinez and his job security. People are wondering, could he get fired any day now? But how the hell is Mike Rizzo, their general manager, on such strong ground? How does his job security so strong when you consider he's had manager after manager whether it be Dusty Baker, whether it be now Dave Martinez. He got rid of managers in the middle of the season. He got rid of one manager after just only 2 years because of failed playoff experience. And he gets to continuously pick manager after manager. And yeah, he had hit gold twice in the first overall pick of the draft with Strasburg and Bryce Harper. But he has failed time and time again at building a solid bullpen for this team. And that's been why they've lost these postseason series, because they weren't able to hold the leads late in the game. And he continues to have such strong job security. I mean, at what point is the hierarchy of the Washington Nationals going to be like, all right, we're not just getting rid of the manager, we're getting rid of Mike Rizzo as well and cleaning house there? Because they had their opportunity at winning a World Series, and they never got over that hurdle. And that's probably part of the reason why Bryce Harper walked out the door on them this past offseason. You look at the rest of that National League. In the Central, it looks like it's turning into a two-team race right now, because the fact that the Cubs, yeah, they've struggled a bit recently, but they've only really got the Brewers breathing down their neck. The Cardinals have been a team that's either been way up or way down. They've gone a bit of a skid as of late, losing 7 of their last 10. The Pirates have been a cute story, but you look at their run differential, they're a minus 63. I don't think you can expect a team with that has that hard of time scoring runs, even with as well as Josh Bell has played this month. I don't think you can expect that team to continue this trend and be any more than a 500 team. And then you look at the National League West. We know that's a one-team division there, because, yeah, the Padres, they've been a fun team to watch. The Diamondbacks, Torey Lovullo's gotten more out of them than anyone could have expected after trading away Paul Goldschmidt. The Rockies have probably been that one big disappointment in that division. And every time I'm ready to say, oh, here we go with Colorado, they once again go out there and lose, 3 or 4 in a row and sink back below the 500 mark. The Dodgers, they have 2 frontline starting pitchers. You have Bellinger having a historic start to his season, neck and neck with Yelich, there for the NL MVP race. And no one else in that division has the resources of the Dodgers to go out there and make that trade if need be. Say, get that extra late inning reliever in the middle of the summer, or get that guy to add to their starting rotation so they can have a 3-headed monster at the top of the rotation with Buehler and Kershaw going into a postseason series. So that division race is pretty much over there. You look on the American League side of things, you've got the continued run of success by those gritty, gutty, little engine that could, us against the world, no one believes in us team known as the New York Yankees, as they sit a resounding 35-18, second best record in the American League on this last week of May, and it's astounding when you consider all of the guys that they've lost to injuries. Whether it be Judge has been out over a month, Stanton hasn't played in 2 months. You have added injuries to their rotation, leading them to do crazy things like the opener 3 times in the last week and a half. And still the beat rolls on. I mean, they lose Andujar. All right, we bring this guy Urshela in out of nowhere, and he's hitting over 300. Knew he had a great glove, but who knew he was going to have this good a bat? You lose basically all of your outfield other than Brett Gardner, and Clint Frazier comes up from the minors, hits 10 home runs. You get contributions here and there from the likes of Cameron Maben or Mike Tauchman driving in double-digit RBIs, even having a lot of home runs. You bring some guy, Thairo Estrada, who got shot last year in his home country, up from the minor leagues, and he's been a good find for them. You have Gary Sanchez coming off the injured list. He has 16 home runs. Just been unbelievable what they've gotten out of this team. Oh, Luis Severino hasn't pitched yet. What do you know? You got 9 wins out of Domingo Germán. Had his first bad start of the season on Sunday when he gave up 4 home runs, but he's been a lifesaver for them. Hell, arguably their best reliever, Dylan Betances, hasn't pitched yet. And still, they have kept their heads above water. They're 17 games over 500. 2 against games ahead of the Tampa Bay Rays, who I'm still not sure if I truly believe in the Rays. And then 6.5 ahead of the Red Sox, but the Red Sox have started to play very well as of recently. Had that one stretch in the middle of this month where they went 11-2 over a 13-game stretch, and you had even our president patting himself on the back, saying that having them in for a visit was the reason why they went on fire. And the team, though, they're not going to be in the midst of things in this division, but the Blue Jays, they're, for a team that's 12 games under 500, they're an interesting watch. And I say that because you look at their roster and the way it's constructed. A lot of young players, especially young players who are second-generation stars, whether it be Vlad Guerrero Jr., who's hasn't hit a lot since he came up, but still done enough damage with 5 home runs. Craig Biggio's son, Cavan Biggio, who came up from the minors on Friday, was the MVP of the Eastern League last year and got the call up, had his first career home run, hit his first career home run on Sunday afternoon. And then they got another young second-generation star in Bo Bichette, who's off to a slow start at AAA, but at some point, probably in the second half, could be up playing shortstop for the Blue Jays. So, the Blue Jays are a team that they're not very good right now, but in the coming years, once these guys start to hit their true potential, are going to probably be a pain in the ass to deal with. Now, as far as the other 2 divisions in the American League are concerned, the AL West, that division, as we all know, is pretty much over. The Houston Astros are the cream of the crop, probably the best team in the American League. Even with dealing with injuries right now to both Springer and Altuve, and the fact that they've patched the final 3 spots in their rotation together with minor leaguers, or bringing in journeymen like Wade Miley, or going to a guy like Colin McHugh. Still, though, when you're led in a rotation by Verlander and Garrett Cole, who they seem to have the magic sauce when you go to Houston, whether it be when they had Charlie Morton and he turned his entire career around after seemingly being a bust for the first 7-8 years of his career. Verlander, people started to question whether he was done in Detroit, and he's gone there and rejuvenated what's likely going to be a Hall of Fame career. Or now Garrett Cole, who's having the year of his life in season where he's heading into free agency. So it doesn't surprise me that they're this far ahead in the West. What does surprise me is that we're sitting here on May 28th and the Minnesota Twins are 10 games up in the Central, and you could argue that division's over, not just because of the way they're playing, the fact that they have the best run differential in the league. They've gotten good seasons out of so many players in that lineup. I mean, you look up and down that order, guys that aren't even getting talked about enough across baseball, like Eddie Rosario, who's not getting enough league-wide attention for the numbers that he's putting up this year, and with a batting average of 283 and already hit 16 home runs on the season, on his way to, who knows, 35 home runs potentially with the way he's played. Bringing in so many players onto this team, guys like Nelson Cruz, who seems to never get old, or bringing in Jonathan Scope, who's reverted back to his form of 2 years ago with the Orioles. And then a pitching rotation led by Barrios, who's been a young ace in the making for several years. Odorizzi pitching like an all-star. They bring in Martin Perez, and he's 7-1. Still, though, I look at that team and want a little bit more assurance in the back end of the bullpen. I don't think you can rely on Blake Parker to be this great all year long. But part of the reason why they're so far ahead in the division is the Cleveland Indians have been awful. And they're 10 games under, that they've dealt with some injuries in their rotation, whether it be the Clevenger or Keuchel. And you have Jose Ramirez in this ungodly slump that's dated back to last August. And you just look at them and you're like, at some point the Indians are going to fire, but you wonder if it's going to be too late because of the way the Twins are playing. So, no. Right now, if you enter the postseason now, and we still have well over 100 games to play, you'd have a first round of Astros against the winner of a wild card game between the Tampa Rays or the Boston Red Sox, and the Yankees going up against the Twins. And in the National League, you'd have a situation where the Dodgers are going up against the winner of a wild card game between the Braves and the loser of the NL Central, either the Cubs or the Brewers, with the other team playing the Phillies in the first round. But hey, still over 100 games left to be played. Trade deadline coming up at the end of July. Who knows what kind of craziness, kookiness we could have here, because there's always someone in June that pops up out of nowhere that's sitting at 500, gets on fire, and all of a sudden finds themselves in the postseason. Last year, it was the Oakland A's. Who's to say it can't be either them or someone else doing that again this year? And that, my friends, is Keeping It Sports with M3 for Tuesday, May 28th, 2019. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night, and I'll talk to you guys once again next Monday afternoon. Peace.